I want to hear all about Everest, but what's it like?
No worries.
What's it like, say, day 10 in the middle of the Atlantic? You're alone. You know, you haven't probably stood up in a long time. You've got some communication maybe via email and a satellite. I
Yep.
don't know if you did back in 2010,
Yes,
maybe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you like being alone out there? Do you find it's a time where you're introspective and it's peaceful? Or are you thinking, I want to get home? And
I loved it, and you've got to enjoy it. If you fight it, because I'm traveling so slowly, and I'm averaging like 2 knots, which is walking
Really?
pace. You'd walk faster, so it took a long time to get across. But you've got to enjoy it. You're out there in this environment. Every day the sun comes up, the water glistens in a different way. The wildlife is something you've never experienced. Huge big fin whales swimming up to the side of the boat. And I was looking eye to eye with these whales. You can't do that in captivity. And sharks would follow me and swim around the boat. I'd throw food in to get them to come closer so I could film them. I used to get out of
throw food at the shark.
I thought it was incredible. They were actually called oceanic white-tip sharks. And they were 7-8 foot sharks. They're big sharks, but they were not scary at all. And I thought, well, I want to try and get some photos of these things, but they would never come close enough. So I started throwing bits of food in to get them to come close, and they never, ever would. And I had this theory that I could literally jump in and they'd swim off, and I decided not to try it in the end. But
maybe some blood would have been good. You just
yeah, absolutely. And I tried to fish, and the fish were so smart. They kept taking the bait off the hook. I couldn't believe it. So actually, the trick is you need a harpoon gun. You can spear them very, very easily. But I used to get out of the boat and to clean the bottom of the hull, because you get growth build up on the bottom of the hull. So by keeping it clean, you can gain just half a knot. So if you think that half a knot over every hour, over every day, over every week, that small marginal gain becomes massive. And when I remember, I used to tie myself on and get out the boat, and I'd look down and it would go dark. It was unreal. It was so clear. It's 3 miles to the bottom. So you're never that far from land. It's just the wrong way. And there's an incredible ecosystem of fish that swim underneath the boat, and they're actually hiding from the sun, which is quite intense out in the middle of the Atlantic. And of course, then you get bigger fish coming up to eat the smaller ones and so on. And before you know it, you've got an entire ecosystem of fish swimming around your boat. It's amazing. And I remember one day I was cleaning the bottom of the hull, and a fish came right up to me, bit me on the nipple. Couldn't believe I'd been bitten on the nipple in the middle of an ocean. But it wasn't painful. It's like being pinched. But
are you ever scared for your life out there? Are you ever have a realization like I could die? You know, I know sometimes these boats sometimes don't know you're there and will just come plowing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I was almost run over by
Right.
a 300-meter long tanker, and it sounds crazy. I didn't see it coming. You're rowing away and you're in your own world. You listen to your iPod,
Right.
and the trick is to use the time constructively. So I used to think about all the things I wanted to do when I got home, and I used to make a list and write things down, and I'd think in great detail about how I'm going to do something. And I remember there was one particular day I was rowing away, and it's a silence out there on a calm day when there's no water lapping against the boat. It's a silence that you've never experienced before. And all of a sudden I heard this very loud mechanical noise out of nowhere above my iPod, which I was listening to, and I thought, what the hell is that? And I turned round, and I was just greeted by this huge tanker coming straight towards me, and it hadn't seen me, and I didn't even realise. And I grabbed a VHF radio, which is what you use to communicate with other vessels. And my boat was called Speedo. I got sponsored by Speedo, the swimming trunk people. And I said, look, this is Speedo. I'm on your bow, so the front of their boat. And they were about to run me over. And I said, can you see me? And I got nothing. So no one was monitoring the radio. And I thought, well, I've got to do something myself. And I managed to steer myself away, and it passed me to within about 50 meters, which doesn't sound that close. But when you're in a boat that's maybe, I think it's 5-6 meters long, and their vessel is 300 meters long and weighs 100,000 tons, it's a different ballgame altogether. And the wake actually almost rolled the boat over, but luckily it was never really a problem. But my heart had never leapt out my chest like that before. And that's the most dangerous part.
Okay, is the other vessels.
Yeah, it's other human beings, sharks, waves. I mean, you'll see, it's not uncommon to be caught in seas that are as high as a 2 or 3 story building, but the boat will self-right itself if it rolls over.
Okay.
So as long as you're still in it, you'll be fine.
Okay. So those don't scare you as much. Okay. And
it's
besides,
getting run down.
when you're out there alone and the sea is going, you're never thinking I might die now, or did you get so used to it where you're like you convinced yourself I wasn't going to die?
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.